The Arizona of 1884 was no place for weak men. But Tom "Black Jack" Ketchum wasn't just strong. He was unkillable. Imagine being shot 3 times in the chest, falling off a 100-foot cliff, and going days without a drop of water under a 45-degree sun. Any doctor at the time would have said he was a walking corpse. However, Black Jack continued to walk. The secret wasn't in his muscles, but in what he carried inside his leather bag. A Spanish gold cross he stole from a cursed mission. But the price he was paying for this immortality was something no human being should bear. Today, we reveal the disturbing story of the man that death simply forgot. The year was 1884. In the scorching heart of the Arizona desert, where the sun shows no mercy and the sand guard's secrets man was never meant to find, a shadow crawled across the jagged rocks. His name was Tom "Black Jack" Ketchum, but to those hunting him, he was known by another name, the man death forgot. He had 3 bullets in his chest, a shattered leg, and hadn't tasted a drop of water in 2 days. Any other man would have been buzzard bait in hours. But Black Jack wasn't just any man. What he carried in his leather satchel, an ancient artifact found in a forgotten Spanish mission, was the reason he was still breathing, and the very reason he'd soon wish he was dead before sunset. To understand how Black Jack reached this state, we must go back 3 days. He wasn't a hero. He was a cattle rustler, a hired gun with a cold stare that made even the bravest lawmen look away. But he had a code. He never stole from those who couldn't afford to lose. While fleeing a posse after a botched robbery near Tucson, Black Jack sought refuge in a crumbling mission, buried by decades of sandstorms. There, among the peeling walls and the scent of ancient dust, he saw something glimmering beneath a stone altar. It was a solid gold cross, adorned with a red stone that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. In that moment, the desert silence was broken by a whisper that didn't come from the wind. Black Jack ignored the shiver down his spine, grabbed the cross, and mounted his horse. He thought he'd found his fortune. He didn't know he had just signed a contract for eternal torment. In the hours that followed, bad luck followed Black Jack like a hungry shadow. His horse, the hardiest beast in the territory, dropped dead without warning. The water in his canteen turned to bitter sludge, and then the pursuers came. But they weren't lawmen. They were tall figures, draped in black rags, riding horses that left no hoofprints in the sand. Black Jack fought back. He was the fastest draw in the territory. In a narrow canyon, he emptied his revolver. He saw the bullets strike their chests, but they didn't fall. They kept coming, in an absolute silence that was more terrifying than any war cry. This is where the legend truly began. Black Jack was shot repeatedly. He fell from cliffs, was buried by rock slides, but every time his eyes closed, the cross in his bag burned against his skin, and a violent force dragged him back to life. He was trapped in a cycle of agony and survival. He was, quite literally, too hard to kill. Black Jack's story ends enigmatically in 1901. They say he was finally captured and sentenced to the gallows, but the records of that execution are disturbing. Eyewitnesses claimed that when the rope snapped taut, something impossible happened. Black Jack's body didn't react like a mortal man's. Time itself seemed to warp around him. Many say the man who climbed the scaffold that day wasn't Tom Ketchum anymore. He was a hollow shell, kept animated by an ancient gold that demanded a tribute no mortal could pay. The cross, it was never found. Some treasure hunters say it returned to the buried mission, waiting for the next greedy traveler. The legend of Black Jack makes us wonder, how far would a man go to cheat death? And more importantly, is immortality a gift or the ultimate curse? Today, on full moon nights in Arizona, some travelers still swear they see a lone man walking the dunes, carrying a heavy leather bag with a faint red glow lighting his path. What about you? What would you do if you found a treasure that gave you eternal life, but took away your peace? Let me know in the comments. If you love true stories and Wild West mysteries that history tried to erase, subscribe and hit the bell. The desert has many voices, and we are here to listen to every one of them. Black Jack's story ends in 1901 atop a gallows, but official accounts of that day are so bizarre that the government tried to hide them for decades. They say that the moment the rope tightened, time stopped, and what was left on the ground was no longer a man, and you. What would you do if you found something that gave you eternal life, but took away your right to rest in peace? Would you keep the cross or leave it buried in the desert? Leave your theory in the comments, I read them all. If you are fascinated by these dark mysteries of the Old West that school books don't tell you, click the subscribe button and ring the bell. We are just beginning to unearth the frontier's deepest secrets. Until the next story.